Everybody said I was crazy when I went to market with my coaching platform. So it's a video replay system that gets distributed wirelessly over Wi-Fi, right? Open license wireless signaling. To field, to coach, on the bench, and we essentially are able to communicate to player on the field and off the field, on the bench, what the coach wants out of performance for him. As I said, everybody said I was crazy. What I'm going to do right now is bring you into an example of what happens with the New York Rangers, and I'm trying to find my, yeah. I'll get into the context of this conversation, which is around concussion and concussion management, because that's where I've ended up. But I want to give you an idea of what the product actually is in today's form. All right, so this happened near a playoff round last year.
They're looking for an edge any way they can, and for the New York Rangers, that means getting Tablet down on. To that back when I was playing, but it absolutely be very effective to get the point home for the coaches.
Okay, so what you just saw there was a real-time intercession or interaction between coach and player right on the bench live as the game is going on. We've gotten accolades, and I witnessed this around the world, from Australia cricket to Irish rugby to Welsh rugby to the New York Rangers to amateur teams here in Ontario and across to BC. This ability to replay for player has become essential from a coaching standpoint. But today we're talking about where the product ended up, and that is in the concussion space. So, as of this year, or 4 weeks ago, English Rugby, in conjunction with the Viva Premiership, with the use of my tool, have set the bar with respect to how they manage players in terms of how they are concussed on the field, and the removal protocol that has to happen around that. As of today, Sam Peters, a very controversial reporter, now says that Premier Rugby, meaning Premiership League Rugby, is now light years ahead of the top 14 and other leagues. Top 14 is the French league, in terms of delivering player welfare. Big selling point to attract players. We provided that, a small company out of Richmond Hill, disrupting the incumbents, Sony, Panasonic, even Samsung at this point. So with that, we'll go on to what the actual problem is. Concussion has become so prevalent in performance for a number of reasons, mostly based on competitiveness. Our players, our top athletes, have become so powerful and so capable that they're going full tilt all the time, and they're bound to be injured or concussed. On the flip side of that, we overplay them, we overtrain them. Fatigue plays a massive part of this as well. They get sloppy on the field or sloppy on the ice. Coaches and leagues have not been held accountable for not prioritizing player safety. This is a massive point, and it's bound in legal controversy that you would not believe. No moral obligation to protect the player athlete. Athlete is a high-paid piece of meat on the field, right? I'm sorry to outline it in that way, but that is a truth. Our own Jamie Cudmore is now suing Clermont in the French Rugby League because he was knowingly put on the field after being concussed, not once, but twice. Twice. Right? We're not talking about an injured hamstring or a leg or an arm. We're talking about a man's life or a woman's life in terms of how they play the sport or their quality of life. Right? To be put back on a pitch after you've been discredited about being a player on that day, absolutely wrong thing to do. Now, everybody will assume it's the doctor. It's not the doctor. The doctor's saying, no way, you're not going back out there. Right? Coach is a different story. He sees him running around and says, he's fine. Let him play. Doctor says, he's fine now, but if he dies tomorrow, that's on you. And that's an actual occurrence that happened in front of me at the Rugby World Cup, where an independent doctor said to a team coach, I won't say who, you cannot let that player go back out on the field. Coach says, yes, we are. Doctor says, no, you're not. Doctor rules in the game. So. For a time, there was no legal obligation as player ends up being ultimately responsible. This is questionable, but I put it in there because I didn't know how to describe it. With argument, a player will remain on the field knowingly concussed. They want to be playing. So I'll give you another scenario. World Cup again, player gets knocked out on the field, adrenaline is pumping for the player. They get knocked out for a second, maybe a millisecond, they're not moving. That's the first indication that you've got to come off. Adrenaline pumps, they jump up, they're running out to go back and play, right? The doctor says, you're injured, you can't play, you got to come off. Player says, no, I'm not. Shows them the video off of our product, and this is what we do, and this is where we excel. We take the video straight out to the field. We show the player, we show the argumentative coach, and we say, you're concussed, you need to come off. The player goes, whoa, I was out cold. And they generally are. Okay. So, Premiership Rugby being highly criticized, although they are ostensibly the toughest league in the world. I don't know if, who's seen a rugby game? Right. So in my opinion, I've seen a lot of sport and I sit with a lot of coaches. Rugby, in my mind, far exceeds any other team-based continuous sport in terms of aggressiveness. They're animals. They go hard and they leave it all out on the pitch, right? So they came to a conclusion that something must be done. We need to start protecting our player. They came up with the mantra, you'll see it Twitterized out there, it's called recognize and remove. But they failed in this mantra in year one when they introduced it. They had nothing to back up recognize and remove, right? So how does one doctor capture everything that happens on the field? Not possible. He needs tools, right? The only tool available to them at the time was the ability to run into the back medical room, try and figure out the contraption that was playing back video there, and go, I can't find it, what do I do here, right? Came to us and said, we need a tool that puts video right on the front lines, that allows me and my doctors and spotters up in the stands to be looking at gameplay the entire time through. And that's exactly what we did with my play-by-play. I'll break it down to you and what it looks like. I just want to get across these main points. So, recognize and remove, deploy real-time video and data marking at pitch-side reviewers or spotters in the stands, enable doctors, team, and independent. Independent is a key focus here. Without an independent doctor, you have biased doctors on the team, right? So you need somebody to step back with the same video, and they can argue it out with the video on the pitch, with the coach. To recall any incident in real time on the field, invoke an unequivocal zero-tolerance practice of recognize and remove, backed up with proof, right? So what was the point of this? A doctor would feel intimidated, believe it or not, to go out and tell a coach, I have to take that player off the field, or I have to take him off the ice. Because the coach would just bark at him and say, are you kidding? I pay that guy £1.5 million a year. I'm not taking him off the field. Now that we give him proof, there's no argument, right? Don't listen to me. Let's look at the video. Look what happened to your player. So recognize and remove takes a step up in terms of what we provide in my play-by-play as backup and proof for the coach, for the doctor, and the spotters in the stands. The disruption of recognize and remove could only ever be achieved in an app experience such as my play-by-play. The incumbents come to market with, here's my 100 grand worth of video gear, and we're going to wire you up fiber, and it's going to go somewhere. You decide where you want it to be. And we're going to put an operator in there for you as well, right? Not going to work. I have no archive. I have no marking stream, no metadata, no annotation, no telestration. I've got a big video screen. Big deal. Where's the proof? How do I enable proof? You can only do that through an app. And that's what we've done. That's what we've done effectively with my play-by-play. What does it look like? So upwards of 4 to 12 users in venue. This is Twickenham. And this is the format and layout of Twickenham, which is the hallowed halls of rugby outside of anywhere the All Blacks play. Up top and up high, we have 2 spotters. We'll have 2 spotters in the middle, and then the 2 team doctors, and we'll throw another user in there, which will be the independent game doctor. All of that signaling from truck, whether that's Sky or Fox or who's ever local in this country, we'll pull all those angles in, and then we'll transmit to all the different users who are on the My Play-by-Play system. And when that happens, each individual has their own replay and switching system. So if you decide that one spotter should be focused on one side of the pitch, that's where his focus stays with that camera, right? We can get up to 8 cameras in terms of coverage of the field. Okay, so creation of tags and metadata all allows us to be driven into the video for an instant recall of the archive and the live content much later down the road and in process of creating a study. And that's the important thing about also the app approach to managing concussion and player welfare. I've now provided doctors of Premiership Rugby the ability to study the impact of concussion, excuse the conjugation there, of what happens to players and frequency of hit. They never had this before. So now we can make a real study out of concussion with the use of our product. Pitch side reviewers, this is as of last week. So this is Harlequins on pitch. First 30 seconds of the game, player was concussed, pulled off the field based on our tool having caught it. Now it's hard not to miss it in the first 30 seconds, but what they were able to do is instantly review it and go, oh, that was a body hit or that was a head hit. No, it's a head hit. We need to go talk to him. We need to take him off the field. We kick off a whole protocol then as well called HIA. It's just a process of testing the player in intervals, right? So in those intervals, it's question answer, challenge response, 20 minutes later, again, 30 minutes later, again, right? If he passes those 3 tests and the game's not over, he's allowed to go back on the field. Okay, the result of appifying in our product the ability to do concussion and play review is 12 venues that have a real-time monitoring system, cataloger, and an online retrieval archive. A cloud-based data store that will enable study against key incident over time, right? This is where my partners in SAS will come in, right? We'll build a nice, rich engine to dissect all of this great metadata that's being collected over time and understand what happens to a player when they're concussed once, twice. We don't know what the study will be, but at least the option for doctors is going to be there. Premiership Rugby specifically. They would be more apropos in understanding what kind of study do we need to kick off. But at least we have the conduit to enable it now, whereas before it was throwaway data, right? Yeah, we saw it, we video recorded it, now it's gone, we saved the player, right? An advanced protocol fully vetted and tested for deployment as a turnkey system to rugby unions globally, all with the specific intent to protect athletes. I'm going to submit not just rugby unions, but also any sport and any league around the world. I leave here to go to Zurich to talk about this scenario with FIFA. And this is what we do with Liverpool.
It's being billed as the latest weapon in the fight.
So I showed you that because in the one instance, I've created this amazing platform for doctors and medics and physios within Premiership Rugby. I'm now fighting with FIFA to release their 100-year-old rules around competitiveness on the field, relinquishing any responsibility for player protection, right? And in the past 2 weekends, we've had 2 players in Premier League football, they call it football, right? We call it soccer, majorly concussed. So it's a small company out of Richmond Hill, and we're making complete and utter waves across the global community in sport. So thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.